So, welcome back to another episode of the Emotional Mastery Podcast. So, this week we're going to talk about failure and reframing failure because I think it's a hugely important topic for so many and for anybody, but more specifically, or just specifically for third lines. And we're going to get into that in just a minute. I sort of want to just touch a little bit on the astrology, just taking a moment to really focus on that because today is Thursday, April 20th, when this comes out. That's not the day that I'm recording it. But today or last night, depending on your time zone, we had this hybrid solar eclipse that we've all been talking about and new moon. And this is all happening at 29 degrees of Aries. And so Aries, as we know, is the start of the zodiac, right? It is the astrological new year. It's all about initiation. It's all about action. It's all about new beginnings. It is, it marks the start of spring. And it is such a pivotal time. It is such a pivotal time in astrology, right? So 29 degrees of Aries is kind of like it, and 29 degrees of any sign is like closing of that sign and you're beginning the new sign. So this is a really big time. Jesse and I talked 2 weeks ago on the podcast episode that, eclipse season is very chaotic. And so the energy we're going to feel is chaos. And as we're like coming to a close within this time, this eclipse is happening again. New moon and sun is at 29 degrees of Aries. And today, when this episode comes out, the sun is moving into Taurus. And I am a Taurus baby. And so I absolutely love Taurus season. So it is sort of like wrapping up Aries and beginning this season of Taurus. Now, Taurus is a lot more grounded. It's a lot more sensual. It's a little bit slow to move. It is earthy. It is a fixed sign. So it is stubborn. We all have heard, the stubborn side of Taurus, the jealous side of Taurus, the materialistic side of Taurus. And Taurus is ruled by Venus. And so Venus is love, values, money, beauty, morals, all of those things, artistic expression, all of this falls under Venus, as well as emotions fall under Venus. And so you have this very earthy, grounded, sensual energy ruled by this, I don't want to say intense, but this just beautiful, sensual, artistic, materialistic energy that is Venus. And so we're moving into this energy. We're closing the cycle of Aries, of leadership, of action-oriented individualization, and we're moving into this, grounded, earthy, material, building, manifesting energy that is Taurus. And although each sign that is next to each other is very they're like opposites, they are running off one another. So what Aries doesn't have, Taurus is going to bring in, right? And what Taurus doesn't have, Gemini is going to bring in. What Gemini, and it goes on and on and on. And these are like themes. And so again, with the eclipse, and it's all happening square Pluto. So Pluto has had a lot of light on it with moving into Aquarius. And squares are typically challenging aspects, and it's aspects that are calling us for action. So what has been coming up for you, right? What has been coming up? I know a lot has been coming up for me personally when it comes to money. And this is another reason why I really wanted to record this episode on failure, because a lot has been coming up around failure. And I personally have my North Node and South Node, but my North Node is 29 degrees Aries. My South Node is 29 degrees of Libra. And so this is sort of like a life theme for me, and coming up to my nodal return. So the North Node turns into North Node in Aries next year. And so it's kind of like all been coming back. I've been feeling this really big pull to leadership, to individualization, to self-leadership. And also the themes of Libra have been coming up strongly. So for most of my life, I've always lent into the energy of Libra, of being the supporting role, of being codependent and allowing others to lead and guide and tell me, to a point where I absolutely lost myself completely within that. It's really interesting because I think, and it could have just been my perception of myself, but of course, we're all mirrors for each other, specifically and especially in relationships. Relationships are mirrors for us. And I have always received messaging that I was selfish, and that's something that I held a lot of shame around. And so I always like overthought it or thought twice about the actions that I was taking. And I have a lot of Leo. I have a lot of fire in me too. And so there may be an element of selfishness in there, but Aries is calling for selfishness, which is why it needs the opposite energy of Libra, which is very people pleasing. It wants balance. It wants harmony. It's all about the relationship. Whereas Aries is about the I, Libra is about the we. And so having these energies, opposite energies coming together to support each other. And so within my life, it's learning the balance of the I and learning to integrate the we. And when we move forward with both of these energies, it is really beautiful. And so a lot of this is coming up. A lot of this is being asked to be seen. And then right in the middle of all this eclipse stuff, we have Mercury going retrograde. And so pop astrology, I'm sure everybody's familiar with Mercury retrograde. People who tell you not to sign contracts, don't start new jobs, don't anything technological, just like hold off and reread and fine comb things. And something I'm learning in MBA, which is so true and so powerful, but we're always manifesting. Because, with the new moons, the chaotic energy, people will say, don't manifest, but we're always manifesting. We are always manifesting from our subconscious. And so I saw something today on TikTok and it was like, we are not manifesting what we desire. We are manifesting what we are. And so what you desire, what you want to bring in, you have to embody that energy now to bring it in, because you're going to bring in what you are. And so it's huge. I've had so many massive reframes recently just around mindset and money. And it's just like, so of course, as we're moving into Taurus season, Taurus is all about the material, right? And it's just, yeah, it's been a really interesting energies that are coming up a lot. Again, asking to be seen, especially with this Aries North Node energy, because I am wanting to work for myself. And within that, if as an entrepreneur, and there's innovation that's involved, there's leadership that's involved. And so this practice of like really coming back to myself and really finding strength within myself and really coming to myself for the answers, as opposed to outsourcing it to others. Because I did that for so long. I would outsource everything to other people because it was safer, and I'm air quoting it, for somebody else to be wrong about what was right for me than for me to be wrong about what was right for me, right? Because I didn't listen to my own body. And so that's been like super confronting, of just like coming back to myself and making my own decisions. But what I really wanted to talk about today was failure, because we're all going to fail. And reframing failure, specifically if you have a third line in your profile, because the third line is all about trial and error. It is all about failure. It is all about bonds made and broken. It's all about experimentation and learning what works and learning what doesn't. And oftentimes as a third line, we have to learn that from doing, right? It's like falling down, but we continue to get up. And in MBA, like Catherine Zankina, she launched her course like 4 times before it actually became successful, right? And so can you imagine if she had just like quit the first time and like been done with it? There was also like a story, I don't remember where I read it or heard it. I think I maybe listened to it in a podcast or something, but this story about, actually, I think it was in the Napoleon Hill book, Think and Grow Rich. But they were talking about like during the gold rush time, this one specific person, I don't remember who it is. It's probably somebody really famous that I just don't remember the name right now. But they bought like a drill, and they drilled and drilled and drilled and drilled, and they just were not finding gold. And so they gave up and just like gave the drill away. They spent like tons of money, but just like gave the drill away to somebody. And that person was like, let me just try. And the person who originally was drilling was like 50 feet away from the gold. And so the person that then took on the drill and drilled down, like hit this gold mine. And it's like, if we looked at failure in that way, we're only failing if we quit, right? And if there's something that you really, really, really want to do, like continue to show up for it, hold the vision, embody who you want to be in this moment. Like I am now a successful entrepreneur. I have a successful podcast. Like I work fully for myself. I get to travel the world, right? Like I wake up in the morning and I journal as if I am, right? And it's like my desires and my dreams feel so much closer than they ever have been. Ever. And it's like, I feel it, I taste it. And yet there are still like subconscious beliefs that I'm working to rewire and reprogram and really embody my authenticity. Cause I think that's really where it comes from, And not to say that I'm not authentic, because I feel like I'm my most authentic version of myself right now. And it is easy to be like, oh, well, I need to be this person and get people to like me, or I need to be this person because when they show up, people just like, they have magnetism, right? And they only have magnetism because they are authentic to their true selves, right? They embrace all of their quirks and they embrace all of the things that make them uniquely them. And I think a lot of times it's like, I remember when I first learned my human design, there were so many things within my design that I was like, oh, I've been trying to hide that for so long because I just thought I was wrong for it, right? Like I was just like weird for being that, or having that energy. But yet it's such a beautiful piece to who I am now, right? Now I can see that and reflect. But like as you're going through your process, there are things that you're shamed for, right? There are things that is not, I'm air quoting, like not normal, not the norm, but like nobody's normal. Like what is normal anyway? And it's so important, yeah, again, to just like reframe what that means for you, because any successful person that you speak to, I mean, like you can't create something without having failures, right? And so often we like see somebody with a finished product and we're like, oh my gosh, they make millions of dollars off this thing, like whatever. But yeah, we don't see how much they fucked up and failed and like fell on their face along the way. And I'm sure it was many, many, many times. Like throwing, it's like my process, like as I've learned to embrace it, like my process, like I just throw things at the wall and hope that it sticks, right? And then if it doesn't, I'm like, okay, well, what went wrong? Like full transparency, I have failed twice in my, like this past time is the second time I've like failed launching a membership space. And it could be so easy for me to just be like, oh, I'm just not meant to do this. The first time was like crickets. I got nothing. The second time I had people sign up. Um, I had two, I had two people in there. And it just, something wasn't aligned and one person canceled. And so I was like, well, okay, I could continue to talk about this, or I can just face the fact that this round is not what's going to do it. Right. And figure out what's going to work next time. And I've done that. I've come back and I've assessed and I've reflected and I have an idea of what I'm going to do next. And I am working towards it. Right. And I'm just going to continue to go because I feel so strongly, like so deeply, that this is my path and this is my purpose and this is my mission and this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Right. And so instead of just like throwing up my hands and being like, all right, I'm done, I'm failed, tried it twice, didn't really work out. But it's like when I had two people in there, like, if my mind now wants to be like, oh, I only have two people, it's like, no, I am so grateful that there are two people who are committing their time and energy to want to be with me. And how amazing that they basically get one-on-one attention from me during this time. Right. And so that like powerful reframe, yeah, it's powerful. And also like then working through my shadows where I notice that when one drops out, which was what happened, one canceled, which it happens. Then where my mindset goes, right? Where it's like, do I stop showing up now? Do I shut it down? How do I go from there? And so I chose to just kind of reassess and try something new. And I'm going to try something new. But I was really like during that process, really reflecting on like how that made me feel and the disempowering thoughts that were coming up and the stories that were coming up. And I have my Gemini, I write Chiron conjunct Venus in Gemini in the 11th house. And so I have like some deep wounding around community. And again, I've talked about it before, like this year to me is just this year of community. Like I am part of two beautiful community spaces right now, and I find myself not engaging. And it's like, that is part of my wounding too, right? Because like, I guess the underlying fear of that is like, well, if I show up and I engage and nobody talks back to me or nobody wants to collaborate with me or like whatever it is, then and it's that underlying fear of rejection and ultimately failure, right? Because then we're failing as like who we are. We feel like failures. Like we take that on as ourselves. Like I'm rejected, I'm not worthy, I'm a failure, all the things. And first of all, I have to question it. Do I know for certain, 100% for certain that that is true, right? Like, no, I don't. Our subconscious goes on stories from the past, right? It assesses and it reflects on what's happened before, and it wants to keep us safe. It wants to keep us comfortable. That is the purpose of the subconscious. And yet we can't rewire that subconscious and move forward unless we are uncomfortable. And so it's sort of this tug of war of being uncomfortable to grow and our subconscious wanting us to be safe. And so we have to rewire the subconscious. We have to, this is why, like, I truly do love affirmations. Like, some people say they don't work. And I understand where that sentiment comes from, because it's like, you can't just like affirm your way to the life that you desire. It's all of the work that goes along with that. And also affirmations, it's like our subconscious is wired through repetition and emotion. Emotion will always trump repetition. However, if we're sitting here and you start your morning with affirmations, whatever it is, and you continue to like every day tell yourself, like, I am amazing. I am amazing. It might find like, you might find it really weird to say at first. Like, your subconscious may be like, no, you're not, or whatever your subconscious belief is, right? But the more you say it, like, I got this, I am amazing, like, just continue to tell yourself. And last week, if you listened to the podcast episode with Carrie Fisher, we were talking about like imposter syndrome, and we were talking about successful people and how they all experience it, right? And I was having a conversation last night with somebody, and it was like, now when I feel that discomfort, like, this is a two-part, and I hope I don't lose my train of thought here, but like, if I feel that discomfort, it's sort of, I've gotten to the point, and I understand now, everybody's like always talked about it. And I was always just like, well, how can you feel excited about that? It's so uncomfortable, right? But like, I've gotten to the point now where my discomfort sort of excites me, because I'm like, ooh, this is something to be seen. This is something to move through. This is something to heal. And again, with MBA, Catherine just put out this anxiety meditation. It's just a short meditation based with RRT, rapid resolution therapy, which she's been talking about more and more, which is essentially really speaks to the subconscious. But but on a conscious level, this specific meditation really excited me. And maybe it was actually working in the subconscious, and my conscious just like picked it up or was interpreting it. But, the whole premise of the meditation was this idea that anxiety is essentially the fear of our physical body, right? When you think about anxiety, and I know for me, like, when I think about anxiety, when I pull that up, it's like the beating of my heart. It's the like tense and strain in my stomach. It is just the fear, the physical feeling of fear in my body. And emotions are simply the body's physical sensations. Now, feelings are when we take those body physical sensations and we move it to our mind. We put a label to it. I'm feeling XYZ. Whereas the emotion is, because emotion is energy in motion, emotion is spirit speaking through us. And so when we're feeling emotion, the emotion of anxiety, right? Anxiety is the label, is the mental label to it, but the physical emotional sensation is a rapid heart rate. It is an increased breathing, like increased breathing pace. I don't know. That phrase has completely escaped me, but like quicker breathing. So we have a quicker heartbeat. We have quicker breathing. We've got, tension in our stomach. We've got, whatever other, sometimes we have dizziness. Sometimes we have nausea. Sometimes we literally have physical sensations like diarrhea, right? Like gas, bloating, like all of the things that come with anxiety. And so we're literally afraid of our body, right? And so how can we reframe that? And the other piece to the meditation was then to say, when we are, the reason why we have these physical sensations is because our body is moving into a fight or flight mode, because our subconscious doesn't understand that we're just afraid of rejection, or we're afraid of, showing up to something and then somebody doesn't like us, or, you know what I mean? Like our subconscious doesn't understand that the external threat is not actually like a real predator or something that we may have had to run from. And so what's happening is our body is getting in this fight or flight mode, right? It is strengthening us to run or fight or whatever it is. And so during this meditation, what she was saying is like, I thank my body for the unnecessary strength, right? Like, thank you for the unnecessary strength. And it just something within that meditation, like completely reframed in my mind anxiety. And so I did it twice. I had a podcast interview that was like a little bit nervous for. And so I did it before that. And then I like didn't have the anxiety. And then I had a date, which I always get a little bit anxious before dates, especially not drinking, because I used to just like show up early and have a drink, then I'd be fine. But now that I'm not drinking, there is that element of, fear of rejection, or for me, it's always this weird, like having to like walk in somewhere and then like try and find somebody. And then it's like, what if you don't look like your pictures? Or I don't know. It's just this weird thing. Like I always like to get there early, but I did the meditation before I went on my date, and I like wasn't super anxious to begin with. And I don't know if it's just like a matter of practice now, that like when I first started dating, because I met my first husband when I was 20. And so we got divorced when I was 28, and then I met my son's father not long after that. So of all of my like, high school dating is different because it's just it's just a weird high school thing, right? But like actual dating, like I literally had never really done it because I had just been married and in relationship. And so when I first started dating, oh my gosh, I was so anxious. Like I literally wanted to run. Like everything in my body was like, I don't want to go in here. I don't want to meet this person. And so obviously, like the more practice, the more things become less uncomfortable, and you can just show up and have conversations, and it is what it is. And like if it's awkward or if it's weird, like, okay, cool. At least I went out and had a night with somebody new and had a conversation. But I did it before that date. And I had virtually no nerves. Like no part of me felt anxiety. I was just like, wow. So that just like was such a powerful reframe. Um, but yeah, I believe so much of it comes down to, and even a fear of failure is essentially a fear of rejection, right? It's a rejection from outside of us. It's a rejection of ourself. Um, it's a fear that we're not worthy, right? Because if we fail, nobody sees us. If we fail, maybe we're rejected. If we fail, we're not worthy. All of these deep core wounds that come up through perceived failure. But again, like I have it on my wall, and it's from The Alchemist, and it says the secret of life is to fall 7 times and get up 8 times, right? Because and just like the gold, the digging for the gold, it's right. It's always right when you want to give up. Right after that is the breakthrough. Like, do you notice that in life and so many things? It's like right when you want to throw in the towel, you just try one more time because you're just, you believe in it or you're dedicated to it. And it's like right after that. Somebody was telling me last night a story about an athlete that was just like not good when they first started, and through consistently showing up and through practicing, and I'm sure they failed so many times. I'm sure they got rejected so many times. Like I always think about Disney, right? Or Walt Disney, who was rejected by like 200 banks. Like, can you imagine? Like I was literally thinking about it. It was like, okay, if I was rejected 200 times from people to invest in my business, like I don't know. Like, do you think you would continue to show up after 200 like, let alone like 50 rejections, right? Then going through 150 more, like being that committed and being that devoted to your dream, to your desire, and knowing so strongly within you that that is what you're here for. That is your purpose. That is your mission, right? And then you look at how successful, but again, like so many times we don't see the failures along the way. We see the success. And so we assume that it was an overnight success, and it's not. And so really having that deep faith and understanding that, again, like as a 6'3", oh my gosh. And as a 6'3" MG, like, please, I have just like bounced from thing to thing. Like I have quit so many things. Like it just like, I'll start something and my energy doesn't align to it. And then, some people, and I respect them so much, but they will see things through to the end. And it's just, It's not within me. Like I just energetically can't give energy. I can't give 100% energy to something I'm not fully behind. And that's what happens, right? Then I half-ass things, and then I either, it just falls apart, or there's always something that I just like can't give 100% energy to something that I don't fully believe in. Right. And so having that throughout my life, I've always just had to as an adult, like reframe what that looked like. Cause I was labeled like the quitter, and I couldn't see things through. I couldn't follow through on things. I was flaky, all of these things. And so it's also a practice of now, like not committing to things that I don't fully think that I can see through. And that was the people pleaser in me. That was like, I would just say yes to everything. And my unconscious earth is gate 29. And so, of course, I want to say yes to everything. And it truly, gate 29 is in the sacral center. And so, gate 29 is in response. And so, I truly I would say yes to so many things that like felt good in the moment, but I wouldn't pull it through my emotional authority. And so now I'm learning to not commit to so much. Like if I truly don't think that I can fully follow through on something, I don't do it now. And that's the difference. When I was younger, if you're watching this on YouTube, my light is going a little crazy. It's interesting. But yeah, when I was younger, I would just overcommit and I would say yes to everything because I felt like that made me worthy, right? If I said yes to you and if I helped you, then that made me worthy and that made me seen in all the things that I was craving. I didn't want to say no because I didn't want to let people down. I didn't want to disappoint people. But now I know when I can say no and honor myself, then when I do say yes, it's so much more powerful, right? Like I can actually fully commit to it. I can actually fully see through it. And so I've just gotten this practice now of just being like, even if it sounds great, let me sleep on it. Let me get back to you tomorrow. Let me think about it. Like this sounds really, really great in the moment, but let me consider it. Let me think about it. And that's been really helpful. But again, like reframing that idea of failure, like failure doesn't mean anything beyond growth and learning, right? Like leaning into it. Like, okay, I launched a membership twice, failed twice, but I still feel a calling for it. I still feel a passion for it. I still feel a drive for it. I still feel a desire to create it. So to me, that means it's there for me. I just have to figure out the piece that I'm missing and try it again, and maybe next time I still don't get somebody to sign up or I still don't get, who I want. And then I try it again because I feel so driven towards it. And it's, sort of like the podcast. Like I've been doing this podcast, oh my gosh, for almost 4 years now. And for the first year and a half, I was inconsistent. I didn't talk about it to anybody. So I've really been consistently at the podcast for about a year and a half. It'll be 2 years in October, which is wild, crazy. Yeah, it must be 2 years in October, 2020, or was it 2021? No, it was 2021. Yeah, so 2 years. But anyway, besides the point. But it's like my personal journey and my personal growth has been slow. And the more I do the work, the more I realize I need to be in a space where I'm fully ready to receive, right? To receive and to handle and to be able to move through it as it comes. And so again, I look at now failure very differently. And it's so easy to get caught up in the fears that come with the failure. But, ask yourself, do I really have a passion for this thing? Do I really have a drive for this thing? And if so, like, okay, so I failed. I'm going to learn from it. And if you have a third line in your profile, it is just who you are. It is just a part of who you are. And it is so important to just embrace that and accept that and lean into that. And, gate 3, line 3, I mean, it's all about difficulty in the beginning. It's all about change. It's alchemization. It's transmutation. It's just this beautiful, chaotic energy. And if we can just learn to accept it, learn to lean into it. Yeah. And just know that you're not failing. You're learning. And that's the reframe, right? You are not failing. You're not a failure. You're learning. There's so many people that I interact with on a daily basis that I'll hear them be like, oh, I'm so stupid, or I can't do this. And I always tell them, I'm like, no, find different words. And I tell my kids that all the time, but like when I say that to adults, then the next time they're like around me, they'll be like, oh, I'm just learning. And it's like kind of funny, right? But I see them doing it more often. And it's like, just that little shift, right? That little seed that's planted in there that really helps you reframe that is really powerful. So just leaning into that energy. And I think that's so much about what the transits are teaching us right now. So yeah, that is my little talk on failure for today. I have so many exciting episodes coming out and so many more exciting conversations that are going to be had on the podcast really soon. So don't forget to rate, review, subscribe, and share it with a friend if you resonate with this, because it truly does help the podcast get into more ears which allows me then to create more podcasts and to continue to do this because it genuinely lights me up. And, my goal is obviously I would love to impact as many people as I possibly can. But even if it's just like even if it's one person, right? Like that's what it's for. It is, me using my experiences in my life and sharing the stories of the guests and hoping that, it supports you in somewhere in your life and your journey. And my guess is if you're listening to this, you are on a journey. You're on a spiritual journey and a growth journey, and you're moving towards your goals and you're committed to it. And so I just trust that every episode resonates with someone in wherever they are in their pathway, whether you're listening to this as it comes out today or if you're listening to it in 2 years. But either way, I just appreciate you so much for being here and for including me in your day, in your week. If you listen to it every week, like I appreciate you beyond what I can even express. And this podcast just brings me so much joy and it lights me up so much. And every conversation I get to have with somebody, I always hang up these calls just like on a high. And it's such a beautiful thing. So I thank you so much. And I will catch you next week. Again, if you would like to book a one-on-one session, those are available. A human design astrology coaching session, and especially with all the energy that's going on right now, if you feel called to that and really diving in and seeing how the transits are personally affecting you, I think it's really powerful and I think it's really supportive. And so even if you're just, researching it on your own, I just think it's really helpful to understand how these energies specifically are affecting us and not to anticipate and plan our life around it. But when things come up, it's just good to reflect and be like, oh yeah, like for me personally, my North Node is 29 degrees of Aries. So when I like put that together and I realized that, I was like, oh wow, no wonder, no wonder I'm feeling all this stuff, right? And it's not to like change it or shift it, it's to surrender to it and just let it be. So again, there's one-on-one human design and astrology coaching sessions, and then there's a 12-week program, which is a combination of human design and holistic health, and the Healy is weaved in there along with attachment theory. And it's really just using, the base of health, getting your body right, then rewiring your subconscious and understanding your energetics on an energetic level, understanding yourself on an energetic level to support you through the process of deconditioning and rewiring your subconscious and all the things. So all the information is down in the show notes. All the links you need are down there. You can follow me on Instagram at Rochelle.Christian. That is ROCHELLE.Christian, CHRISTIANE. Send me a DM over there and let me know what you think. If you share any of the reels or if you share the podcast or anything, be sure to tag me. I love hearing from you guys. And again, I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for listening.